What's up, YouTube? And welcome to a video I'm calling Closet Finds. I was working on a project to do some cleaning around the house because, again, we've all got so much extra time around the house these days, and decided to clean up a closet that I really hadn't touched since I ever moved into my house about 16 years ago. And one of the things I found in there really surprised me. It was something I completely forgot I had. Was a selection of NES video store cut boxes. So I'll explain what that is here in a second. But essentially, when the early days of my NES collecting in the late 90s, I got a good chunk of my collection, including a lot of very rare games, from a local grocery store chain that was closing all of their video locations and blowing out all the NES games. So I ended up getting a huge variety of weird NES games for about $1 a piece. At most locations, some up to $2.50 a piece. And a few of the locations actually included the rental boxes that they would sell or would have on the shelf to let you take a look at before you rented the game. So here's an example of one of those. We'll kind of walk through what I found in that box. They're in these plastic cases. It was the original NES cardboard box, and they sliced it. They sliced the side of it so it would fit in the plastic case, but that way it retained the bulk of the artwork so you could take a look in the video rental store if you wanted to rent the game. So unfortunately, this is a huge tragedy for collectors because all of these NES boxes were mutilated, but I did decide to save them at the time because at least it gave you some of the artwork, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with them otherwise. So what you're going to see in this video is about 50 of these NES boxes that I saved from about 20 years ago plus, and don't really know what I'm going to do with them now that I found them, but it was kind of interesting to see some of these rare games that I found the boxes for. So we'll start this off. This one is Boulder Dash, and these first few I'm going to show are the ones that are the most tragic of all because I even cut the bottom of the box. So if you look at the back here, it's like chopped off even above the barcode. So these were in shorter cases than an NES size box. Some of the ones that I'm going to show you later in the video, they have more of the artwork intact. But as you'll see, there are several rare games that I have these cut cases for, and here's one right away. This is Cool World. This was a pretty late release for the NES. I think it came out in '93, and even the cart for this one is pretty difficult to find. So unfortunate I don't have the intact box, but kind of a neat one to have in the collection, I guess. This next one is one of my all-time favorite NES games. This is Old Cubicle. Really love this action puzzle game by Irem. And unfortunately, I don't have the intact box on this one, but this would be high on my list of ones that I want to get. Really think this game is still a little underrated to this day, so can highly recommend that if you're looking for a fun action puzzle game for the NES. This next one is The Last Starfighter, which I think was like an 80s movie I never saw. It looks like some Bob Saget type dude on the cover. I don't think that actually is him, but kind of resembles him. And this might have been like a LucasArts game, I think. Maybe even the film was a Lucasfilm, I don't know for sure. But anyways, kind of an uncommon game that doesn't really go for a lot because I think it's not very good, if I remember right. The other thing that was kind of interesting about these video rental store cases is they even had unlicensed games in the store. So one thing that you could kind of count on with video stores is sometimes they had some of the weird unlicensed stuff that you couldn't even find in your local chain stores. And this is Ultimate League Soccer by American Video Entertainment. And if I do remember right, this is the one that even had on the cartridge that it was part of their Kick-Ass Sports series. I don't see it on the box. Maybe it's on here somewhere. But I think it's kind of funny. Just that things that they could get away with as an unlicensed game, obviously Nintendo would have never let fly. And then it even has a note on the bottom of the box that's unfortunately cut off about the NES systems with the lockout chip, and that you may need to do some extra steps if you have the lockout chip. So call the 1-800-HOT-4-AVE hotline to get some details, and they'll help you out. So another one that's kind of unfortunate that it got all cut up because I don't think I have that one intact either. This is Castle of Dragon by Seta. Not a extremely expensive game, but I think it's kind of a neat one. Flies a little bit under the radar. This one's a little more common. This is Swords and Serpents. It is one of the ones that works with the 4-player adapter. So this one has some of the original price stickers. Like, I don't even know if I paid $2.49. I think it was marked down even more than that. Unfortunately, like, they just stickered the hell out of these boxes, and some of them are even stickered directly on the artwork and then put in the case, which is a true tragedy because even the remains of the box are kind of altered up. I have no idea if anyone would pay anything for these or if they're even worth saving, but I do think it's kind of neat to at least have portions of the artwork of boxes that would be difficult to track down on their own. Some of these I do have the intact boxes of, so I guess maybe my dupes I can get rid of, but I haven't gone through them all yet and matched them up. Next we have Disney's Adventures in the Magic Kingdom. This is one of the many, many Capcom Disney games. I don't really think that one's as highly regarded as many of the others. Next one is another of the unlicensed games. This is Captain Comic. This, I think, is one of the first games that Color Dreams put out. It's probably one of the more common of the Color Dreams releases. It's not any good, just like most of the Color Dreams stuff, but yeah, kind of interesting that that exists. This next one is a very rare one, and I'm unfortunate that it's cut, because again, I would love to have an intact box for this one. I don't. This is Toxic Crusaders by Bandai, and several of the Bandai games, Stadium events notwithstanding, were actually pretty difficult to find for the NES, so this one is not an easy game to find, but obviously very happy now that I got it for $2.49 or even less from that video sale. Most of the cartridges, they actually didn't sticker up too bad, and I think I was able to get most of their labels off. This next one is another pretty rare one. This was a late release game for the system. This is Tecmo Cup Sucker. I think this is part of the Captain Tsubasa series in Japan that they're actually... They're interesting games. They're not even really like true soccer action games. They're soccer RPGs. And kind of innovative for its time. You do a lot of menu selection and things like that to quasi-play the game of soccer, but really it plays out more like an RPG. And I remember when I first got this game, I played it quite a bit. I was really blown away by just how weird it was. So if you're interested in a unique sports game, I can definitely recommend this. That we got this game in the US. I don't think we got any of the other games in that series, Captain Tsubasa series. I am going to butcher the pronunciation of this one, just because it has this ridiculously long, weird title. This is The Magic of Scheherazade, I think is how you say that. It's kind of this Middle Eastern action game. Something like Rock the Casbah action, I guess, would be the best way to put it. I don't know, whatever, but not a great game. Next we have John Elway's Quarterback, an incredibly common game. I'm sure I have this one intact with the box. I could probably just throw this away. But I used to laugh at this game because in the Funko Land paper, it was abbreviated big time. It was like John E. QBK or something like that. And people would always try to buy it because it was like 19 cents in the Funko paper. But we'd have people that would ask for it in so many different weird ways. Just kids and parents and things like that would be like, can I get that Johnny Be Quick game for 19 cents? I don't know. It always made me laugh. That's a story for another day. Next is one of the many Simpsons acclaim games. This is probably the rarest one, actually. This is Bartman vs. Radioactive Man. I actually own several of these early Simpsons games they put out. They weren't any good, but I loved the Simpsons at the time, so I just had to have them. And probably by the time this one came out, I was a little bit over Simpsons licensing. I still love the show. I watched it every week. But, you know, the licensing got really out of hand for a couple years. So this was toward the tail end of its peak, I would say. Next one is Jurassic Park. This is not a super rare game, but another very late release, because I don't even think the movie came out till 93. It's kind of interesting that, you know, this chain was still buying NES games all the way toward the end of its lifespan. And, you know, unique that they thought that these would rent. I remember I got some of these late issue cartridges when they blew them out, and even in the late, 90s, early 2000s when I was buying them, it looked like nobody had ever rented them. I think, honestly, they just sat on the shelf for 7 or 8 years, and then they got rid of them. Next is another one of those Simpsons licensed games. This is Krusty's Funhouse. Nothing special there. I didn't own that one as a kid either. This one's kind of weird. This is Power Punch 2 by ASC, with a very Tyson look-alike character on the front. They were obviously trying to capitalize on the popularity of Tyson's Punch-Out. But in this game, you beat up aliens. So, yeah. It's not any good either. But I just think it's funny because I don't even think there was a Power Punch 1, and they just called it Power Punch 2 to try to trick the consumer into thinking it was a new Mike Tyson's game, which is kind of dirty in the way. I don't really think they had good enough distribution for it to matter, though. This is the last one that is like the super cut-off packages, and then the rest of them are going to look a little better than this. So this is our Keisters Ring. What I mean by that is these are the last ones that are like cut off about 3/4 of the way down the box. And then the rest of them you're going to see are going to be a little bit more full. This game I always thought was kind of unique. It's a little bit under the radar, but yeah, pretty fun. Alright, next one, so this is the first one of the full-size cases, they're still cut, unfortunately, is Wario Woods, and this actually is the last licensed NES game that came out. So it kind of proves my point that they were still offering these for rent up until, I think this game came out in like late 1994, if I remember right. It's very unusual that they would think that there was a big rental market for those, but whatever, that's what they did. Next we have Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Nothing really exciting there. Next is a Taito game, and I know I have this one complete in the box with the actual box because I try to collect all the Taito games complete. This is Wrath of the Black Manta, and I really try to stand up for all the Taito stuff. This one, it's a little tough. This game is a little rough around the edges. I'm not even sure if... I think it was Taito of America that developed this, or maybe it was even Ocean, because Ocean developed a few of their games that came out here. Regardless, it is not a Taito classic, unfortunately. Next is a pretty cool one. I don't think I have a uncut box for this one, but it's a pretty neat game. This is Clash at Demonhead by Vic Tokai. Always liked that one. It's got pretty cool artwork on it, too. Next we have one of the 2 Star Trek games. This is Star Trek 25th Anniversary. I was never really a Trekkie, so this doesn't really mean much to me. But as you can see, these actually, they cut the whole box, so you still get like the barcode and stuff like that was missing from those first few I showed you. Next is Caesar's Palace. It's one of like 4 or 5 gambling games on the NES, but doesn't really go for a whole lot. It came out pretty late, though. I think this was a 93 release, or 92 at best. So, those seem to sell pretty well, even coming out late. One of the 2 Bugs Bunny games is Bugs Bunny Birthday Blowout. We have Ferrari Grand Prix Challenge. Nothing special there. This one was somewhat late. This was like a 92 release. I think it came out with the movie. It's Batman Returns by Konami. It's actually a pretty good game, and it is the 90s, so you get the Batman hologram on there. Gotta have a hologram if it's the 90s. That was big. American Gladiators. So this one's kind of funny to me because I actually remember renting this game from my local grocery store video store chain. So this may be actually the exact copy that I ended up buying down the road. That was the one I rented, back in the early 90s, which is kind of funny. I must not have loved it, though, because I never bought it, but I did like watching American Gladiators at the time. It was kind of a fun show. Next is another one of the Color Dreams games. This is actually from their spin-off company, Bunch Games, and check out that artwork. Just things like that made me pretty excited even to find these all even in cut-up shape. This is Taggin' Dragon. It's a really weird action puzzle game where you have to bite the tails off other dragons, and then you essentially kill them. They turn into skeletons, just like that in the grain graphics. It's definitely a weird one. This is one that was developed by Sashin, which I think was Taiwanese, maybe, NES developer, and then Color Dreams just licensed some of their games, or, unlicensed some of their games to sell them in the US, essentially. But, yeah, that's definitely an odd one. Next we have Silkworm. This has actually got some pretty cool artwork on it that's unfortunately not as cool with all the stickers slapped all over it, but definitely think that this one's kind of neat. Oh, of course we have a Be Kind, Please Rewind sticker on a NES game. Sure that did a lot of good. Next is a game that I'm not really that crazy about, but I love ninja action games, and I've got to give it a little love because I really like the artwork, even though it's got that kind of cheesy airbrush style. This is Ninja Crusaders by Sammy, and I actually pulled this out a couple months ago and was playing it through. It is a brutally hard game. I mean, people think things like Ninja Gaiden are tough. This game is like, I don't know, 2 lives and no continues. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. Nobody's gonna beat this game without some kind of Game Genie or cheat enabled. There's no way. I would put this up against Contra or any of those games that people say are difficult. I think this game is impossible in its default settings. They really blew it, but I don't know. It's ninja action. I give it a little bit of a break, but they didn't really do a great job with that one. Next is another Taito game. This is one that I'm very fond of. This is Rainbow Islands. It's the semi-sequel to Bubble Bobble, even though it claims it's the Bubble Bobble sequel. I would kind of question that, but since the playstyle's quite a bit different. But it is still kind of a multi-screen platformer. Just, Bubble Bobble was one screen. This has got multi-screens. You scroll upward. And I did ultimately get a nice complete copy of this in the box, so I don't really need this case anymore, I can tell you that. But definitely think that one's got some cool artwork. Obviously, I'm biased because I love Taito stuff so much. Next up is another weird late release. This is Tiny Toon Adventures Cartoon Workshop. This was, I think, the third of the 3 Tiny Toon Adventure games that came out, and it was essentially like a Mario Paint for your NES. So you can kind of see that, the idea with this is you could hook up a VCR to it and make little cartoons and save them to the VCR. You could have like a recorded tape of your Tiny Toon Adventure cartoons you made. Yeah, I doubt anybody did that, but, hey, kind of neat that they created that. Alright, next is one of the best boxes that I had in this whole lot. I mean, as little as these can be worth in this condition, but it is a very rare game, and yes, I did buy this for $2 or whatever. This is Ducktales 2, which is a very rare sequel to the original Ducktales that sold many more copies on the NES. But, tragically, and I've been showing you kind of the backs of most of these, this one they kept, essentially most of the full front artwork. And then, for some reason, the back, they chopped it off entirely at the spine. So I don't even get 3/4 of the artwork with this one. I get, 40%. What a bummer. It's like they knew that was one of the most desirable boxes, and they cut it even more than the other ones. Let's follow that up with something unimpressive. This is Tom and Jerry. Of course, that one's got all the artwork. I don't get it. I don't know who was slicing and dicing these things. If I was there today, just watching this happen, even with a time machine, I think I would have been screaming in the grocery store. What are you doing? Next is another pretty cool game that I think, again, flies under the radar for NES. This is Puss in Boots, and it's based on a Japanese anime that I don't think ever came out here, so it's kind of weird that they licensed it for that. But they even told you on the back of the box, in this little box back here from Toei Animation, this game stars Pero, an original character of Toei Animation. People in America are like, I don't get it. But, fun game, very colorful. I don't know, I just think this one's kind of neat, and not many people talk about it. Next is the Konami shooter Life Force. I'm pretty sure I have this one in a nice box also, but definitely a cool shooter for the system. Always like that one, or Salamander as it's known in Japan. Wheel of Fortune with Vanna White. And you can laugh all you want, but games like this is what probably kept rental stores going. Just adults would rent the crap out of games like this. I know they would. I mean, they would go get little Billy or Timmy and Joey and Marie, their little Mario game or whatever they wanted, and then they would rent this for themselves to play after the kids went to sleep. So I guarantee these video stores made really good business on things like that. Those game show games. Those were really popular. Another probably popular rental was WWF King of the Ring. This is one of the later LJN wrestling games. Not real familiar with it, but it's another one. Then we have the lesser-known Ski or Die, not to be confused with the more popular Skate or Die series. Very extreme sport of skiing or snowboarding or whatever it was supposed to be. Then we have another Capcom popular game. This is Little Nemo the Dream Master. I didn't really have a lot of nostalgia for this game. I know a lot of people, it seemed like they had this as kids, and none of my friends had this, so I played it obviously much, much later, but I have no, nostalgia glasses for that one. Another Capcom game is the little-known Street Fighter 2010, The Final Fight, that came out. So even before we had Street Fighter 2, we had this game, and it really isn't that good, but it's kind of cool that it exists. Next up is Side Pocket, a pool billiards release, whatever you want to call it. Probably also rented well with the adult set. Then we have Ikari 3, The Rescue, part of the Ikari Warrior series. That one's got pretty cool artwork on it, actually. I wish I had... This is another one I wish I had an uncut up box. I don't think I do. I think I have Ikari 1 and 2, but this one I don't. So, kind of a shame. Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends, another short-lived cartoon series. I probably watched a few episodes of this, but I didn't really get it. I think you had to kind of be into the original run of Rocky and Bullwinkle to get into this. Well, maybe this is the original series. I don't know. I seem to remember this was like a spin-off series they tried to bring back. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So now we're down to the last three, and these are all pretty good ones. So first up is Darkwing Duck. This is one of the harder to find Capcom Disney releases. Darkwing Duck I was not huge into. I watched all those Disney cartoons, but this one and Tailspin never really clicked for me. I thought they were kind of dumb. But Ducktales, I was all about Ducktales. So, and then we have a little deviation here. So I found this in that box, and I have no idea how I got this. Recently, if you've been watching my pickups videos, I got a Blockbuster video case for Ninja Gaiden 2, and just found that locally and thought it was kind of cool. This is another one of those Blockbuster case games, and this one is actually for a good game. It's Adventure Island 3, which is a cool piece of the Hudson Soft series. But I didn't pick this up directly from a Blockbuster location, because I looked at where this came from, and it was rented in Norfolk, Virginia, which I never went there as a kid. I've been there now, but definitely wouldn't have bought this out of like a clearance bin there or anything like that. So must have got this used from a game store or something. I honestly don't remember, but it does have the play instructions on the back, which is kind of neat. And I'm going to have to dig out my Adventure Island 2 cart and see if it's got a bunch of stickers on it and stuff from this, but I can't remember if I got it that way or what, however I ended up with that. Alright, so we are down to the last box of this find, and this, I saved the absolute best for last. This one, I was excited and bummed at the same time. This is one of the rarest games on the NES, and I have a nice cut box of it, but it's just such a shame I don't have a genuine uncut box. So here it is. This is one of the heavy hitters of the NES. This is Bonks Adventure, and wow, it's really cool that this came out for the NES. It was a TurboGrafx game probably at least 2 to 3 years prior to this coming out, so very few people bought it. You know, if you were already a TurboGrafx owner, why would you buy this? And then for everybody else, it came out in like 93 and the NES was almost dead, so clear to see why it didn't sell well, but it makes the transition to 8-bit, NES pretty well. It's not as good as TurboGrafx, but it's a decent game. What I can tell you is I do have a little memory of getting these from this video store chain when they were blowing them out, and I probably at one time owned at least 4 of the cartridges. But what I can remember with that is I think I was buying them for either $1 or $2 from the video store chain, and FuncoLand paid like $15 for it, and I traded the 3 extras in and kept just the one for my own collection. It's like, what was I thinking? But at the time, I was like, man, that's such a great trade-in. This is awesome. I'm making some money back on all these games I'm buying from the video store chains. So anyways, I do own a genuine Bonks Adventure that I got from this deal, and the cartridge is in good shape. But I must have saved one of the cut boxes. Not every store gave you the cut box with the cartridges, so unfortunately this store even did put those stickers directly on the artwork. It's not on the case, so I'm afraid to even start peeling those off. So they're kind of like the waxy ones that leave residue all over the box anyways. So this would probably be a, I don't know, $400 box if it was intact. I have no idea if it's worth anything in this state, but I will hang on to it just in case unless I get an original box at some point, which I highly doubt. So very cool to find this, and hopefully you enjoyed this look back into my closet find of video store closeout cut boxes that I found last weekend. So thank you for watching. Please take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. Stay safe out there, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day or night, wherever you are.